before I start, I want to ask everyone here if they could raise their hands if they have a favorite artist or favorite song or favorite genre of music. Good, I see a lot of hands. So, have you ever wondered why you like them? Could it be their voice? Could it be the beat that they're singing on? Or maybe the production of the song? Well, I'm here to tell you that there might be more than meets the eye when you answer that question. My name is Sibi, and I'm going to be explaining the science behind musical preferences. So I've split my presentation up into 7 different points. I'm going to start off with some background knowledge, and I'm going to be working my way down into what I've researched, what I've done, and what I've learned. To start off, I have some background definitions. So first off is a note. And a note is a single pitch of definite tone that is made by a musical instrument or a human voice. So you'll see on the picture here is a picture of a piano. There are white keys and there are black keys. Each of these correspond to a single note. Next is a scale. A scale is a sequence of notes or tones that divide what we call an octave. An octave is when it goes from a lower version of a note to a higher version of the same note. So you'll see I have a low B here and a high B here. And all the notes in between are what we call an octave. A chord is 3 or more pitches that are played at the same time. A lot of times you'll see piano players play 3 tones with their left hand and play a melody with their right hand. And what they're doing is they're playing chords behind a melody. And last is a key. And a key is a system of functionally related chords that work together and revolve around a scale and revolve around a central note called a tonic. So a key of C major will revolve around a C major scale, and it'll revolve around the tonic of C. So I wanted to get into my research, and I started with what are some existing theories to answer the question that I provided earlier on. So according to my research, there are 2 main pools of thought that people think the answer might lie in. So the first one is the key of the song. And if you forgot, the key is the system of related chords that work together to convey emotion. So, as I said, the key of the song holds a lot of emotion. And if we look at some examples that I provided in this chart, you'll see that there are 2 types of keys, major keys and minor keys. A common trend that you'll notice in major keys is that they all convey happier emotions. Like in C major, it conveys innocence and happiness, and in G major, happy and poeticness. Their counterparts are minor scales, which, if you notice, tend to be more gloomy and more of a mourning style of music. You see C minor is about sadness and heartbreak, and G minor is about discontent and uneasiness. So this is important because the composers choose keys on purpose. If they want to convey a more happier message to the audience, they'll choose major keys, and if they want to choose a more gloomy or sad emotion, they'll choose minor keys. The second pool of thought is according to the individual. So the individual could mean the current mood of the person, which means that if someone's sad, they'll tend to listen to sadder music, or if someone's happy, they'll tend to listen to more music that will pump them up or get them giddy and joyous. So Nolan Gasser, a musicologist at Pandora Inc., explains this when he says that the music that people listen to early on tend to act as their home comfort music. So when they grow up, the music that they listen to is tied in with the emotions that they have at an early age, and it tends to become saturated with the emotions that they might feel with those memories. Now, it can also mean the individual's background, as Nolan Gasser said, their home childhood, things like that. Also, researchers Renfro, Goldberg, and Levitin also found that they've split music up into 5 main subgenres, and people that listen to these music in these different subgenres will tend to stay within those genres and not spill into others. And those are the 2 main pools of thought, but those research tends to be a little outdated, and I wanted to find a more modern answer to this question. So, in order to justify my methodology, I've split my literature review into 3 different ideas, starting with the Gregorian chant. So the Gregorian chant is a unison liturgical music that the Roman Catholic Church used to accompany the text of the Mass. And they used this in the 9th and 10th centuries. Now you might be wondering why I chose such an old piece of music, and this is because it's so simple. the music is literally so simple. They use stepwise melodies, which means that the intervals between two pitches are not that big, in order to help the singers in the church better sing the song. So what that means is that when you have small intervals between each pitch, it's easier to sing note by note, which means that it's easier to sing the entire song with perfect accuracy. And they use this because the musical education back then honestly was not as good as it is now. So with low musical education, they had to make it as easy as possible. The second idea is the limbic system. And this is the part of the brain that is involved with behavioral and emotional responses. And it's especially used when there's a need for survival. However, it's not always used for survival. It's also our brain's pleasure and reward center. And researchers at Millersville University found that music has a deep connection with the limbic system. Actually, the feeling of chills going down your spine when you listen to a song, that's because of your limbic system. It releases a certain chemical. Valerie Salimpour at McGill University also found that in her study when she connected participants to an fMRI machine to look at brain activity when they listen to their favorite song, she found that during peak moments in the song, the brain released dopamine in the nucleus accumbens and the caudate nucleus, which are parts of the limbic system. So why is this important? Because when the brain anticipated those peak moments, it released the chemical dopamine, which means that when they kept repeating the song and the brain got accustomed to those peak moments, it released dopamine. And obviously dopamine is my last topic, which is the chemical that the brain releases that gives us this feeling of pleasure, satisfaction, and motivation. So what these three ideas combine is that when a person listens to a song a lot, which means if the song is easy to sing or easy to listen along to, the brain becomes accustomed to the song and it starts to anticipate the peak moments in the song. And when it anticipates the peak moments in the song, the limbic system chooses to produce dopamine and release it into the human body, which gives us that feeling of pleasure and liking the song. Now, the literature's not enough. I had to test this theory out on my own. And with my setup, I wanted to target the distinct connection between the limbic system or a person's memory and their liking of the song. So first, I selected the 5 top genres that on each of the top 3 music streaming platforms, and they happen to be hip hop, pop, R&B, country, and rock. So once my genres were selected, I had to gather my subjects and ask my participants and ask them if they wanted to be part of my study. And obviously all of them said yes. So after that, my questions were formed to target that distinct connection between the memory of the person and their liking of the song. After that, my data was collected. Now my setup, my study was conducted in a 2-week process. So week 1 was the listening phase. That's when I gave the songs to participants and asked them to listen to it for the first time. They were asked the questions, and then my data was collected. And week 2 was the memorization phase. So during that, I asked the participants if they could remember the song, if they could repeat it back to me, and then I asked them the same questions and my data was collected. So what did I find? I found that there's a close connections between the song rating that the people gave and the singing ease that they had. So you'll notice that in week 1, in pop 1, I found that the person gave the song that I gave them a 10 out of 10 rating, and they found that it was an 8 out of 10 rating to sing along to, which means that they found it easy. In another subject, you'll see that in pop 2, they gave the song a 1 out of 10, and they gave the song ease a 3 out of 10, which means that they found the song not that much to their liking, and they also found it hard to sing. In week 2, I found that the results varied a little bit, but we can account these to the song growing on them, or maybe the song didn't grow on them, or maybe they even forgot how the tune went a little bit. So the variations in this data can be accounted to those 3 factors. But the main point is to see that the trend is that the results did not vary as much from week 1 to week 2. Also, in my research earlier, I said that I wanted to point out a connection between the person's memory and then their liking of the song. So I compiled what percent of people memorized the song and didn't memorize the song. And I found that 40% of the people memorized the song or had some idea of how it went, and 60% did. So if you see side by side, in week 1 and week 2, the results do not vary as much. You'll see that they might go down 1 or 2 ratings, they might go up 1 or 2 ratings, but the results did not vary as much as I would expect if there was no distinct connection. Also, you'll see that the 40% that didn't memorize the song were also the people that did not like the song and found it pretty difficult to sing along to. While the 60% that did found that they gave the songs high ratings for both the song ease to sing and the song ratings themselves. This is especially important because this directly proves the connection between a person's capacity for memory and the person's liking of the song. So, what can we take away from this? As I said before, there's a definite connection between the two principles that I wanted to research before. We saw that the more the person was able to memorize a song, and the more they remembered how the tune went, the more that they seemed to like it, and the easier that it was for the song to sing to. Also, the last two conclusions are closely linked together, and that musical preferences may not be as random as we think they are. It's always is just the individual. It might be everyone's music taste is different, and each person likes their own type of music, but we see that there are certain underlying factors that can secretly influence a person's musical preferences. And because of that, musical preferences might also be able to be influenced by a third party. So if you want to put a friend on with a song, you might want to choose a song that they can sing along to, or it might have like easier words or easier tunes to sing along to. However, no research is perfect, and I did have some limitations. I divided into 3 different groups of limitations. First is my biases. So my data wasn't completely perfect. There is definitely a tendency for human bias when I ask these questions. So underlying bias might be like, if I ask the person a question, they might be willing to give a response that would more benefit my research as opposed to a response that would be totally like holistic and not be any biases at all. Another point is the medical perspective, and this ties along to the limbic system. When I was researching, I found that the limbic system had a lot of depth to the topic, and I feel like given the constraints, I could have done way more than if I didn't have them. I could have maybe asked a researcher or a person at a hospital to conduct some sort of study that would monitor the brain activity, kind of like Valerie Salenpour did at McGill University. And I feel like that would have given me a lot more depth in my research compared to if I didn't. And lastly is my sample size. My sample size obviously could have been bigger. The bigger the sample size is, the more reliable the data is. And sample size is definitely a key point of where I could have improved my research. Here are my citations.
Okay, here's a question for you. What was one obstacle or challenge you encountered while implementing your research method, and how did you address it?
So one obstacle I encountered was that finding the songs with the stepwise melodies were actually kind of difficult. I had to put the songs into a third-party software that would show me the chords and the keys to play the song. I had to find the correct sort of intervals between each pitch that would qualify them to be a song that has these stepwise melodies. So I guess that would definitely be the most difficult part of the methodology.
Thank you.
Which of the various perspectives you explored was the most difficult for you to incorporate into your research inquiry, and why?
It would definitely be the medical perspective, because that perspective probably would have required me to contact a third party like a hospital or a research database or something of that sort. And because of the constraints, I was unable to do that. But definitely if I had more time and more resources, I definitely would have contacted them and asked them for more information regarding the limbic system.
Okay. Think about the initial curiosity that led to your inquiry. What other areas of inquiry might the same curiosity lead to?
So my initial curiosity obviously led me to the fact that there is there might be another answer to the question of why do people like music, but another alternative route that I could have gone was more expanded on the individual, as I talked before. I could have researched more about the individual and how maybe their background or their demographic could also affect their musical preferences. Maybe their comfort music at home could have affected it as well. So if I had to choose another path, I would definitely take that one.
Any other questions at all? No?
I do have another question. Concerning future, well, we stop the clock because you're done. Concerning future research for this, the idea of memory and music together, I would love. Did you run into anything in your literature review about how music and songs enhance or solidify memory? For example, somebody older, if you say you play a song from their youth, often they will remember exactly where they were when they heard it, the smells, like it connects to memory in a way that, did you run into anything that addresses research on that?
Yeah, I actually did. Nolan Gasser, the musicologist at Pandora, he mentioned that in his interview with NBC News, and he said that the music that people listen to at a young age, it's usually like saturated with the memories that they had, and by memories by default, it's like the place you were in, maybe the senses that you were feeling at the time. So as you grow older, the songs that you might listen to, they might become saturated with those memories, and listening to a song that you listened to back when you were like a child, you would definitely be able to revisit those times and revisit those senses that you were feeling at the time.
And I'm really interested in the medical answer, like what they're going to find that connects that medically.
Yes.
You know what I mean? That's fascinating.
Yeah.
Good job.
I did have a question.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, the pause still counts. First of all, thank you. I thought it was a great presentation. But as I was sitting here and thinking about all the facts that you stated and what you found in your research, it made me think about the correlation between students and their day, and how many young people replay music throughout the day and even during class. And many say that it helps them, with memorization and concentration. So based on your research, did you find any connection to why people, or young people specifically, replay music for studying purposes?
Yeah, many people while they're studying play like certain genres of music. Like I know some people play like lo-fi music or classical music in order to study, and it definitely has to do with the chords in the piece of music. There are certain chords that would promote these sort of memorization techniques or studying techniques, while certain others would be definitely more chaotic to listen to. You'll find that in classical music and lo-fi music that people used to study to, they're more like chill. They're not super pumped up, and they won't make you like super active. They'll help you get in the zone and be in this sort of zen state. Like people won't listen to like rock music when they're studying because it's so chaotic and it's difficult to focus on one thing because you're being like bombarded by like all these sounds at once. You'll find that like they'll use these more chill chords to study and promote these techniques.
Thank you.
And to add to that, they even have like certain cozy images that will come up on YouTube,
Yeah.
sort of to keep out images that keep you from
Yeah,
concentrating.
definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, it's fascinating stuff.
Yeah, it is.
Thank you.
Thank you.